Thanks for coming along today. Of course, this is all about identifying and destroying your primary growth constraint for 2026. Now, super important. There's normally this time of year, December and January, my workshops are all about planning for 2026. And as I've been looking over the last few weeks, it's kind of what to say and what to talk about. My old planning workshops that I used to run, I didn't love them anymore because I think what we're actually, instead of setting goals and all that kind of stuff, which is a lot of content out there about, what I want to talk today is constraint, because most of us have at least one constraint, and this is why this is so important. So that is what we absolutely want to cover today. For anyone here who hasn't seen me before, here for the first time, my name is Dan Sagar, DS Business Growth, and I spend my time helping business owners, mainly one-to-one, but also in a group settings as well, to really grow their business, looking at a lot of things around strategy on how to grow, a lot of things around systems and processes, as well as touching in sales and marketing as well, to really help businesses grow and move to the next level. So what I want to talk today, of course, is those constraints, because we all have at least one of these constraints, absolutely. And if you don't, well, you probably wouldn't be sat here today watching this webinar or watching this recording back on YouTube, where it will be. So our objectives today are really simple. Okay, we've got two. We're going to identify your number one constraint. As I work through these slides, it might become apparent that you've got multiple constraints. There might be one or two that you see or think of. I think that relates to you, but it's really important that we just pick one constraint and we focus on that. And once we've identified that constraint, we can then figure out how to destroy it, how to remove it from our lives, so it's no longer an issue and we can move on to the next constraint. Because, of course, if we don't figure out these things just one at a time, that's when we can get distracted and our attention becomes diluted and we can't be as focused, and therefore we can't be as effective. So we're going to find this constraint today and figure out how to move past it. So if anyone is not sure exactly what I specifically mean when I'm talking about a constraint today, this is the single biggest thing that is limiting your results in your business right now. That is what our constraint is. What is holding you back the most right now? And that is what we are going to pull out of you today whilst you're watching this. And this matters for various reasons, but the biggest reason that I think this matters is because until that constraint is first identified and then fixed, anything else that you do in your business will deliver effectively diminishing returns. Okay, so you can go and do more marketing, you can go and get some more staff, you can introduce some more technology into the business, you can work more hours, all these things you can do, and they will help to some level. But essentially they could be just wasted energy if you're not doing the right thing first. It's really important to target and do the right thing first and find that constraint. And essentially your constraint is whatever is stopping the business from growing to its next level. And no matter where your business is at, whether you are trying to get to your first £1,000 month, your first £5,000 month, your first £1 million month, or your first £10 million month, no matter where you are at, these constraints will impact you. They will affect you. This webinar is absolutely relevant for businesses of all shapes and sizes. And what I want to take you through today is 6 different constraints. Now, as we move through these, you may think, oh, that's me, and there might be another one over there, oh, that's me as well. But it's really important to figure out which is having the biggest impact on you right now. So yes, you may have multiple constraints, and that is absolutely fine and totally realistic. However, it's all about finding the most relevant and the most important for you right now, so you can move past it. And of course, we all have businesses. I just touched on different sizes there, but we all work in different spaces, different industries, different geographical locations as well. So what I want to talk about here as I work through this is I'm going to give examples of 2 different types of businesses, okay? So you may be selling a product, an actual physical thing that you can touch and feel, or you may be selling a service. Most of the clients I work with are service-based businesses. So for today, I'm going to talk about both types of businesses and how these apply, just to try and keep it as relevant as possible. Our service-based business is going to be an electrical wholesaler. Okay, that is going to be the example today. Someone selling electrical supplies, wiring, all those kind of bits and bobs. And our service-based business is going to be a HR consultancy. But of course, these are just the examples that I'm going to give. And as I give examples for both these types of businesses today, just to keep this consistent, you'll probably see things which relate to you and apply to you, and will have certainly crossovers with you. So before I get into this, I'm going to make myself a little bit smaller for those watching on LinkedIn. There we go. You can now see the slides properly, and we're going to get straight into this with our first constraint: capacity. This is essentially where the business, as much as it might want to, and as much as you might want to as the business owner, the business cannot deliver more. Okay, your people, your time, your space that you have, perhaps physically, the delivery, the amount stuff that you can get out there, whether physically or as a service, the bandwidth of all of these, or at least one of these, is absolutely maxed out. Okay, you literally can't deliver anymore because your people, all your staff, your team, if you have one, or perhaps just you, if it's you on your own, you can't deliver anymore. If you've got a bunch of new customers tomorrow, you wouldn't know what to do with them. And that leads us into our key questions. So for each of our constraints today, I'm going to show some key questions that you can ask yourself and look at in your business, and that will help you decide if this constraint is relevant to you. And that first one is, are you turning customers away? Okay, and if you are, this is a really good indicator that capacity is your current constraint, and to solve it, you need to, of course, increase your capacity. So if you have customers or prospects coming to you that you can't serve well, that is a good indicator that this is your constraint. And another question to ask: if I gave you 50% more customers tomorrow, could your business, could your teams keep up with it? You know, if I said, here's, again, it's all relative, right? Which is why 50% is there. But if you currently look after 10 customers a month and I gave you another 5 tomorrow, could you look after them, or would your whole business almost crumble around you? And it's really important to kind of think about that as a concept, and it will help you identify whether it is or isn't your current constraint. And remember, probably only one of these constraints applies to you right now. It could be multiple, but answering and thinking about these questions will help figure out if this is relevant to you. And if you said, oh, absolutely, we could take loads more customers tomorrow, then this constraint probably won't apply to you, but one of the other ones in a few minutes probably will. So sticking with our examples here now, looking at our product-based businesses again for today, our electrical wholesaling business. So for example, our warehouse, our vans, our drivers, one or multiple of these are absolutely flat out. If we got more customers, more orders, that would just cause more delays, more mistakes, and probably a bit more carnage generally around the place. So everyone is just working flat out. Could be seasonal as well, especially this time of year. Certain businesses are flat out for Christmas. Those product-based businesses, people buying presents, gifts, all that stuff is happening. So if you're flat out and you can't deliver anymore without it causing a bit of carnage, potentially capacity is your constraint. As we move and look at our service-based business, you know, your consultants, your people that are actually providing that service, are they at full stretch? Okay, if we introduce more clients into the business, would that quality of that service just completely reduce and get to a point which is then not acceptable? Or if you keep on working your staff or yourself, are these people or you going to burn out at some point? And it's really important to think about this and how it would affect you. So for this particular constraint for capacity, I've got 4 potential fixes that you can look at. So it's all about, first of all, increasing the output per unit. Okay, so it's getting the same people producing more, of course, safely and effectively. So people could be, with our plumbing supplier, you know, could people pick more accurately? Are we making mistakes? Are we seeing mistakes? If we get things more accurate, we're getting people to be more effective within the same speed. Okay, can we standardize things? Have we got templates or playbooks? Can we make things more repeatable, or things that we've got that we can share with others and our clients to make it more effective, therefore getting more out of our team? The second potential fix here is removing that low value work. So is there things you can outsource? Have you got things that you can give to other people. Okay, what are all your really skilled or talented people in your business doing that they shouldn't be? Okay, admin, we'll talk about this more later in the processes and systems, but it's worth mentioning people doing admin. Okay, a lot of that now we can remove from businesses through AI and through clever technology. Okay, really think about what your team are doing, and if it's really low value work, can we outsource it, remove it, or automate it? Our third point here, or our third potential way to fix things here, is changing that delivery model. So if you are going out and you've got people again in vans doing stuff, are they here, there, and everywhere every day? Can we actually tighten those runs up, tighten those delivery runs up, or introduce perhaps minimum order values? People have to order more from you to get that quicker service or better service. Or can you charge a little bit more for that urgency and hopefully tighten things up a little bit that way? Perhaps if you're doing a lot of one-to-one stuff, can you bring people together in groups? That again increases your capacity, frees you up, increases your response times. And the last potential fix we could look at here is adding capacity intentionally. Okay, doing this last, and this is basically adding more staff, but I would only look at adding more staff and bringing more people into your business once you've looked at the other fixes, making sure that people are as effective as possible, as efficient as possible, working as well as they can, not doing those low value tasks if possible. Okay, adding more staff, and yes, increase that capacity. That does scream to be the most obvious thing here. However, you have to do this in the right way. Otherwise, you're just going to hit that capacity cap even sooner, again and again. So it's really important you optimize things as much as possible and then bring those extra people in as the business allows for it. Because if you bring people into just, a chaotic or carnage type situation, by having more people, you're actually only going to amplify that and potentially make it worse. So it's really important that we look at this last. So that summarizes our capacity constraint. That is the first one of our 6 for today. Our second constraint, market. What I mean by this essentially is that there isn't enough consistent, qualified demand for our products or for our services. Okay, and just to mention up front on this one, if this affects you, it's actually very rare. So I need you to, it's really important to think carefully about this one and if it affects you, because in reality, this constraint affects a very, very small number of businesses. Okay, so if this affects you, it'd actually be quite unusual. So if you do think this affects you, it's worth just having a little think about to make sure that it is super relevant to you. And to start to think about this one with our key questions, something I will be asking myself is, are you struggling to get enough customers? Okay, and if you had the cash, could you spend more on marketing? And I'm going to jump straight into the examples here to show this to you, because I feel like that'll be the easiest way to understand. So in our product type businesses, okay, we've saturated our local base. We're supplying either all of the local market or a strong percentage of the market, and we couldn't supply any more people in our local market. Or for our service-based businesses, perhaps in our HR example, you only work with small businesses under 20 staff within your local area, and most of the businesses that want retained HR support already have a provider, or they don't see the value in what we offer. Okay, so anyone who could be your customer pretty much is, or you've got that really strong marketing offer. And it's really important here, the important bit for this one is if you were to improve your marketing, sales would not increase. And I'll just give a couple more examples here just to give a little bit more context on this. So there's a business that I know provides gazebos for weddings and functions. They provide big outdoor marquees and gazebos. They come and install them, set them up, and they hit a point where they could only really operate within 80 or 100 miles of their home base to be effective and to be profitable at the prices that they could charge. So they hit a point where they were putting more and more money into marketing, but actually they weren't really getting more customers there. The cost of getting those customers became too expensive, and actually that's because there weren't enough venues, there weren't enough events, perhaps weddings, things happening within 80 or 100 miles of them where they could sell their stuff. So it's really important that actually they realized that, and to expand that business, their market was capped. Okay, they'd reached that constraint in terms of market locally, their interpretation of locally. And so what they had to do then to grow that business was potentially look at other areas geographically. And I'll come on to how to fix it in a minute. If you're also perhaps an insurance type business and you provide insurance to a really specific niche or type of business, for example, if you only provide insurance for charities, okay, perhaps you hit a really healthy or a good percentage of charities either locally or across the country, and actually getting more charities in just proves too difficult because you've hit your kind of internal cap or limit on the market. That is a really good example of where this constraint would apply to you. And I've already hinted on how to fix that in one way. Of course, the first way is expand your geography. Some of us could go, beyond locally, nationally, or even internationally, depending what your product or service is. But expanding that geography is normally the easiest way to fix this. Or you could widen your niche or add adjacent services. So in our gazebo or marquee example there for that business, they couldn't do anything more locally. So what they could do is either look at setting another base up across the country, or if they wanted to sell to more people locally, they could add on additional services. They might start offering food trucks to send to these events. A lot of weddings, they like to have a food truck in the evening perhaps, so they could add that or build that into the business. And that is a way of selling more to the same customers and adding those services. Our insurance provider that looks after charities, they could start looking after other industries, other niches, and providing those services as well. So that is how to overcome the market constraint. And again, if that applies to you, it would be very, very unusual. Most businesses are not market constrained. It will be another one of the 6 that we're going to talk about today, just to be really, really clear on that one. So that tidies up our market constraint, and I'll move on now to our cash constraint, which is constraint number 3, and this is a really, really common one. Okay, cash constraint. What do I mean by a cash constraint? Sounds obvious, but to give a definition here, this is where we are saying the business lacks the right cash at the right time to fund growth, okay, even if it's profitable on paper. So you might this is really common, right? You get to the end of your accounts and it says you've made XYZ profit at the end of it, and you might look in the bank and think, well, where is it, right? I've seen that happen quite a lot, okay? And I've seen it myself as well. So the cash constraint here is all about having the right cash at the right time to do the right thing with. And there's a hint as to whether this might be affecting you. You can look at yourself and your business and say, okay, how often is our cash timing affecting our decisions? How often are we waiting for cash to come in before we go and do something? Or we're just waiting for that client to pay, or we're just waiting for that balance to clear, or we're just waiting for something to happen before we make a decision on something else. And then you might also be missing out on opportunities because the right cash isn't there at the right time. And if you're missing those opportunities or not taking on those things that you want to do because the cash isn't there to do that, absolutely, it sounds like you are potentially cash constrained, okay? And just to have some examples here, starting again with our product-based businesses, the cash might be tied up in slow stock. And what I mean by that is you buy things in to sell, but perhaps they're not going to sell for a little while. You might have a minimum order quantity that you have to have. You buy all this stuff in, but then it's going to take 6, 9, maybe 12 months to move all of it before you can get some more in, okay? And what I mean on the screen there by not buying more fast movers or negotiating better terms, the fast movers is that quick turning stock, the stuff that's going to move a lot quicker and become in and out of the business as quick as possible. That's what you want, right? If you're holding stock, you want to hold as little as possible whilst keeping it convenient for yourself and the customers, of course. But if you're going to have slow stock, you need some fast stock alongside it to help with that cash flow. And something else you can do here is negotiating those better terms. So especially as a new business or a smaller business, you may have to pay your suppliers up front. So if you haven't been able to negotiate any better terms, cash is going out and you might be waiting a long time for that cash to come back in, especially if you've got customers of your own on their own payment terms. And then the two things just exacerbate that problem even further. And I'll talk about that in a minute with our solutions. But just to touch on our service-based business, okay, you might have a situation where there's still a few businesses out there paying wages weekly, okay, but actually you've got clients on a monthly retainer paying you, of course, monthly. And if a balance doesn't clear on time, if something bounces or something doesn't happen, you've got these weekly or monthly cash pressures of your own. This is causing stress. And if one person was to pay a bit late one month, that would cause you massive stress, okay? And the other thing to look at here potentially is if you are spending money on ads, if that money going out on ads isn't coming back into cash quick enough, that's again causing you cash constraints. Alex Hormozy actually has some really good stuff around constraints around cash, and especially to do with ad spend. And his kind of philosophy on this, if you like, just to sum it up very, very briefly, if you can spend some money with Facebook or with Google on an ad, someone clicks and buys the thing, and then you get the cash back in your bank account, literally back in your bank within 30 days from that initial ad spend. So money goes out on ads, people click buy, the cash comes back into your business. If all that can happen inside 30 days, you have absolutely got a business model which you can then accelerate and really move forward. And if that cash is turning over in 30 days, you can grow that business very, very quickly because you aren't cash constrained. And then again, you might hit one of the other constraints that I'll talk about today, but that means cash isn't one of your constraints, and that is a really good way to overcome that constraint. If that is the situation that you find yourself in, that 30-day rule is really cool. But if you work out that actually it's 60 or 90 days, that's when you might run into some of these problems. So looking at how to fix this and how to overcome perhaps your cash constraint, essentially what we need to do is we need to fix the mechanics all around our cash flow, okay? And there's 5 or 6 ways here that we can look to do this. So pricing could be one. If we can perhaps increase our prices, this will mean we've got a bit more cash flow coming in. And a lot of people say, oh, just increase your prices. And I acknowledge that is not always easy to do, but there are still people I speak to most weeks who haven't put their prices up in a very, very long time. And actually just putting your prices up by even a few percent will massively help you perhaps with your cash flow because you've got more of it coming in. Another thing to do is look at those payment terms, okay? And if this isn't something that you've looked at in a little while, absolutely readdressing those payment terms and getting up to date on that, and just having that review, quarterly at the minimum. How can we get better payments for ourselves, our own businesses with our suppliers, and how can we get better payments terms that work better for us, the business, with our customers? If you've got that on both sides, okay, looking at both will help fix your cash flow. If you could bring everything a little bit tighter in, it will ease this constraint massively if this is affecting you. It's also worth looking at deposits, okay? If you're in a type of business where perhaps you can take a deposit, so again, looking at our gazebos and marquee business that I just touched on there, they can take a deposit for an event that might be happening a year or 18 months away even, because that locks in the date for the customer. If you're looking to start working with someone next year, you could ask for a deposit perhaps to secure their place. If you're the business that's in demand, you can absolutely ask for those deposits, get people to secure their place, and that just gives you a little bit of cash up front, and again can help to ease these problems. Stock strategy as well. So I touched on before, fast stock and move stock. So if you have physical things in stock that you're holding onto, can you perhaps get some better data, some better software that will give you more insights and analytics on how long you're holding on to stuff for? And perhaps you can hold less stuff if it means you can get it quicker later. I've got a client who supplies fire extinguishers as part of what he offers, and he's recently updated his processes. Now he can get fire extinguishers in stock next day into his business, and they're all proper certified, all the stuff that he needs. And it's not typical for a big supplier to be able to do that, but that's what he's managed to do. And now he doesn't need a huge storage unit with lots and lots of stuff in stock because he knows he can get it delivered the next day. And this has eased his cash flow massively. It's had a real impact, okay? And then margin discipline is the last one on here just to talk about. So if you find it really easy, I'll just knock off 10%, 20% here, actually that is going to hit your cash flow massively, more than you probably realize. I don't have it on here today, but there's a calculation where you can do depending on what your gross profit is. If you give a 20% discount, you may need to sell 50% more product to get the same profit back. And of course, all that ties back to your cash flow. So if you're really quick to give a discount, I'll really encourage you to think about other ways to get more business in if you have relied on discounts in the future, and be really strict with your own margins. And again, it links back to pricing. A lot of these are, of course, connected. And of course, you will see what I haven't said here is just go and sell more. Yes, selling more will absolutely help your cash flow. And sales is, the antidote for a lot of problems. If you had just more sales, if I just had 5 more, if I just had 10 more clients, your life would be so much easier. And this is so true for a lot of businesses. And it's not about not selling more, but it's about also looking at this other stuff, because once you start to compound a few of these different things together, that's when you will really see the impact and the real benefits of all this coming together, rather than thinking, oh, I've just got to go and sell more. Okay, actually start to put a few of these different things together, and that's where it can really compound for you and for your business. So that summarizes cash, our third constraint there. So we've been through our first three constraints, and I just want to pause for 30 seconds here, and just so you can have a little think. Okay, what if your biggest constraint could be completely removed from your business in Q1 2026? Okay, just have a little think. What would that mean for you? And it may be one of the constraints that I've talked about already, or it may be one of the three constraints which we've still got coming up in the next few minutes. It may be one of those, or it may be multiple. Okay, but your biggest constraint, what if we could remove that in Q1 the next year? Okay, and what if we could, by doing that, truly move you to the next stage? And what if I told you that that was genuinely entirely possible? Okay, I've got some stuff coming up towards the end here that will show you exactly how to do that. So if that sounds like something that would help you and help your business in 2026, absolutely stick around to the end, because this genuinely is possible for most people that are watching this. And that's what makes all of this really, really exciting. So after our sixth constraint, I'll show you exactly how to do that. But for now, let's jump back in and look at our fourth constraint, which is skills. Okay, so skills constraint means that the business doesn't yet have the commercial skills, the sales skills, the leadership skills, or perhaps the technical skills needed to move that business to the next level. Okay, and if you're on your own, this will absolutely potentially apply to you. Or of course, if you have a team, this could apply to one or multiple people within your team. So depending on the size of your business and how many people you have around you, this will affect you potentially on various levels. And a couple of questions to think about here. Okay, are you missing out on potentially marketing opportunities? Are things not happening in the world of marketing that you want them to, because perhaps your marketing team, department, or staff member, or you don't know enough, for example, about marketing? Okay, and with all these things tied together, how much revenue are you missing out on monthly? Do you think, oh, if only we could do this, I would be able to get those customers, or if only I could do this, I could tap into that market? Okay, if these are things you're asking yourself because you're missing out on potential revenue that you know is sat there, but not sure how to go about it, this is absolutely a skills constraint and can be resolved. And some little more abstract examples here, perhaps again in our product-based businesses, our electrical wholesaling business here, and we've got staff perhaps on the checkouts or on the tills. We've got staff taking orders for us, but they're not doing any upselling or cross-selling. They're not building those relationships in the business and creating those further opportunities. Again, that's a real skills gap. Sales, of course, is a skill, and being able to do these things, build those relationships and upsell and cross-sell would, of course, help your business. And the skills gap there is on the people doing the sales that aren't doing things like this. Okay, and that crosses over into our service-based business as well. Okay, we might have in our imaginary HR consultancy here, we might have a couple of staff members, even if it's a small business, who are absolutely brilliant at the HR consultancy. They're an expert in their field. They know the advice. They know all the legislation and regulations inside out, and they can provide amazing advice. But are they having really weak sales conversations when put in those positions? Okay, are they not perhaps following up with prospects that they talk to as efficiently or effectively as they can? Okay, and that is, of course, a skills gap, and all of this can be resolved. And of course, the biggest or easiest way to resolve this is either to develop those skills, training, getting people in, or doing some online training, even as a bare minimum, to upskill your current staff or upskill yourself if this is you. Develop those skills can absolutely help you move forward. Or if not, how about you acquire that specific skill gap? Okay, can you bring people into the business, or can you outsource some of it to an expert who absolutely does this day in, day out, and can just take this problem from you, release that skills gap in your business and allow you to grow? Okay, and it could be across sales, as I just mentioned. It could be across leadership. It could be around commercial thinking. Are you thinking as a business owner? Are you thinking like a business owner? It's really important to have those separate set of skills. A lot of people go into business because they are great at that particular thing that they do, but actually those skills don't always translate very well into becoming an amazing and a brilliant business owner. So it's really important here. Have you got that correct level of commercial and business acumen and thinking? And if not, where can you upskill yourself? Where can you get those skills? Because it will help you, it'll help your business. And once that's sorted, everything else is better. So that sums up our fourth constraint there, our skills constraint. And have a think. If you're the only person in your business or your very small business, have you got this constraint yourself personally? Have a little look, think about some of the things that I talked about there, because if you have this constraint, again, a lot of this, there's so much information out there. Even I watch a lot of YouTube when I'm trying to do things or improve on things. First place I'll actually go is YouTube. There's so much free stuff out there. And then I back that up with a lot of events that I go to, workshops and conferences and all these things where I'm listening to experts. And it's all about spending time listening to experts in their respective fields and taking those skills and passing them on to myself. And if I don't have the time or internal capacity to do that, you can look to outsource or bring people into your business who can absolutely support you through those things. So a skills constraint is actually quite common, of course, as you probably guessed from some of the stuff that I've talked about there. And overcoming that skills constraint can have massive, massive potential for your business and help you move forward. So if that's something you need to focus on in Q1 next year, that's actually one of the easiest ones to solve. So that's our skills constraint. Let's have a look now at our penultimate constraint, which is systems. So a systems constraint is where your work in your business relies on either people, perhaps remembering or memorizing things, or effort instead of repeatable and scalable processes in your business. And some ways to think about this, perhaps, how many hours per week are you spending on manual tasks? Okay, how many things are you doing manually that are repetitive? Admin, I'm going to say the word admin now in this little section quite a few times. Are you doing lots of admin, lots of boring stuff that could be systemized? Okay, or if you had a magic wand, what could you automate in your business? What things are you doing on repeat that could absolutely be automated? And I'm not talking about necessarily AI here. Okay, we've got technology and systems, we've got AI, and of course the two things are very, very separate. And a lot of people at the moment are jumping to, AI, but actually a good piece of normal software or some good automations, which isn't AI, can absolutely help you move forward here. And some examples, again, to jump back into our businesses, in our product-based businesses, is that stock control, that ordering, the invoicing, is it all reactive and a manual process, typing all these things out? Okay, when a lead or an inquiry comes in, are we following up with these people in an automated way, especially if you're getting lots of leads coming in? Is there a way perhaps initially to filter people through and get those quality leads and those really good leads to you front and center? And then you can put more time into those really strong leads, and perhaps some of the weaker ones, we can automate that follow-up and that nurture until they get to a point where they are a bit of a stronger lead. Okay, a lot of this stuff can be automated and definitely save you some time. And if your day to day feels a little bit chaotic, perhaps you could use some improvement in the systems and processes area. Okay, looking at our service-based businesses, okay, when we do onboarding or renewal of contracts, or perhaps following up people, is all this stuff living in our inbox or just on a bunch of spreadsheets? Okay, I've seen businesses turning over millions and millions of pounds where actually the backbone is a small folder somewhere full of Excel spreadsheets, and it's all over the place. Or even worse, it's all just on paper. It's nice to have a paper diary, but if that's all you've got and your business lives in that, acknowledge that potentially is a problem. Okay, and having that visual pipeline, my goodness, so important. And now there's so much software out there that can do this. If you don't have somewhere you can open up and see a visual pipeline of all your activity in your business, the leads and the prospects that are coming through and moving from left to right and bringing them into your business, and you can't see that the money in pounds and numbers sat in your pipeline, having that there keeps you so focused, and it is so easy to do now with some software. Absolutely, if you don't have that, realize that is potentially holding you back and you're not being able to prioritize what you're doing each day. So a really simple way to fix this and start to look at this to help you move forward is to document and then simplify and then automate all of this repeatable work And the key word there is consistently, okay? Making sure the business runs consistently without that constant supervision. Okay, consistently is so important here. We might be able to do something once, get it working once, but having it be able to do that without you constantly jumping in as the business owner and supervising it, that is absolutely vital that you look at that. And of course, when you free up your time from some of these things, that then allows you to look at other things, and that's where the constraint comes in. And I've got a couple of slides here that I've used a lot in the last 18 months to help visualize this. And this is absolutely something that I do with my clients. It could be Post-its like this on the wall or on a big whiteboard, perhaps. Whiteboard's a good way to do this, but visually mapping out the processes of all the different parts of our business. So for example, when an inquiry comes in, what happens? How do we respond? Who deals with that? Who checks in on that? How are we dealing with that inquiry all the way through? So hopefully maybe sending the quote or even getting the sale, mapping that out all the way through as a process. When a new client comes in, how are we onboarding them? What are the different steps? Who is doing all of the steps, if not you? And mapping that out visually like this. Again, there's lots of great software out there that can do this for free even. Once you've got past your Post-it notes, and you can give this to your team and say, look, this is what we're working from. And then when someone leaves or resigns and someone new comes into the business, you've got these processes documented out. And again, I acknowledge that putting something together like this isn't quick, but it's using your time in a leveraged way so that when someone does come into the business, you can show them this. And of course, you're going to help them and train them. But you can jump through a lot of the different times and really help yourself move forward there. And then the last thing to do on this is to automate the various steps. Okay, so looking at where AI and again software can do some of this for you, what can you automate? So once it's mapped out, you can then look to introduce the robots and the AI and have them help you and then move those steps forward a little bit quicker. So it starts off by mapping it out and then introducing AI or technology or systems or processes to make these things move a little bit more quicker and a little bit more efficiently to really, really help you. So that is our systems constraint. That is the last one there. And we'll move into now our final constraint here, which is you. Shock horror. Okay. For you in your own business, are you actually the constraint? And of course, this matters as much if you're on your own or if you have a team or if you have staff. Okay. And what I'm talking about here is if you don't have any clarity on the business, if you don't know what decisions to make, if your behavior or even your availability is the bottleneck day to day, week to week, month to month, it's really important that you acknowledge that you are the constraint in your business. Okay. And just to clarify here, I'm talking about you, but actually, if you don't have the skill set to sort out the marketing or sort out the sales, that is the skills constraint. That's not a you constraint. What I'm talking about here with the you constraint is having that clarity, which I'll talk about just now. Okay. And when I talk about clarity, what does success look like for you? So when I'm working with my one-to-one clients, knowing what success looks like is almost one of the first things that we look at every time I start with a new client. What does success look like for you? What are we actually trying to achieve with this program, with this coaching? What are we actually trying to do? How do we know if we've done it right? How do we know if we've succeeded? How do we know if we've made a good go of it? Because if we don't define what success looks like for you and for your business, we don't know where we're trying to get to. We don't know what we're trying to achieve. And that leads here. Talk me through your plan and your goals for 2026. So in the last couple of days, we've now finished. Some of them have finished a bit sooner, but in the last couple of days, all my one-to-one clients now, we've got a plan for 2026. We know what we're aiming for. Definitely in the first 2 quarters, we've got the steps mapped out on how to get there, okay? But we know what the goals are for the entirety of 2026. And we've got at least, for every business, at least the first 2 quarters mapped out, step by step, what we need to do to make progress towards those goals. And if you don't have this mapped out, if you don't know what you're aiming for or where you're trying to get to, it's bad enough if you're doing this by yourself, but if you've got a team, how can you expect them to know where you're going if you haven't properly defined it and written it down? Okay. And relaying that to your team and getting them involved and getting them bought in is so important. So you can all move together on the same page. And just again, to stick it back to our examples here in that product-based business, if things aren't moving without you, so if all quotes, for example, have to run through you, if anything to do with suppliers has to run through you or staff, or even just managing rosters and timesheets and annual leave, If that is all coming through you, acknowledge that you are potentially the bottleneck here, and you are the constraint, which is why I've left this to last. Again, it does tie into skills and some of the other constraints, but actually, if you are that person, it's really important to acknowledge that and know how you can move through it and get that resolved. And Tim, I've just seen your comment there. No doubt the constraint is you. So absolutely, this section is all for you, Tim. And no doubt you're not the only one as well. And if we look at our service-based business, okay, you're busy, are you reactive? Are you unclear on your priorities or your direction? This is absolutely you being the constraint and actually taking time out of the business to look at this and to work on this. And Christmas actually is a good time, okay? Inboxes are a little bit quieter, perhaps all the team, if you have one again, are going to be off between Christmas and New Year, or at least not working as much, and you can take that time away and really get clear on your priorities, get clear on your direction, and map out your weeks and where actually you want to take the business and where you want it to be for you. Having those goals and having those priorities is what will help you do that. And that is why I say all of my clients that I work with one-to-one, the first thing we do is create that clarity and define what success looks like. Okay, if we don't know what success, I'm laboring the point here because this is so important. It's why it's the first thing I do with all my clients, and you can do this for yourself. Define what success looks like, and then you know if you're on track or if you're going the wrong side of that. Okay, and set priorities. We need to do these things, but what is the most important? What is the highest leverage tasks? What is going to move us forward? And for at least some of each day, or as a minimum each week, you have to get out of that noise of the day-to-day. And again, this applies to you if you have a team or not. Getting out of the day-to-day noise is so important. Getting that quiet space. I like to go away with my little notebook and write stuff down and just think, what does success look like for me and how can I move forward, and just take that time. And being out of the home office or the office, wherever you happen to be, getting in a different environment, going for a walk, it just allows your brain to think a little bit differently. And often by doing that, you'll think of things that perhaps you didn't think of when you are in the office and surrounded by that day-to-day, and truly lead the business and truly move forward in a direction which is meaningful and that you've defined. And taking those steps will absolutely help you in 2026. And Tim, I've just seen your second comment there about setting measurable goals. Yeah, it's good having a goal saying, I want to do better, or I want more revenue, or I want more clients. But wanting more of something by itself, of course, isn't measurable. Saying I want 3 more clients or 20 more clients, or I want to increase revenue by 20% or £100,000. Actually, attaching numbers to this allows it to be measurable, right? And then exactly like you say there, not just grinding on, really, really important. So that is our final constraint there. You have a little think. Are you the constraint? Are you the bottleneck in your business? And that is our 6 constraints. So I'll try and wrap this up now in a way which is helpful. And if anyone's got any questions, feel free to start putting them through in the comments, and I'll come to those in just a moment. But a little recap, our constraints here. Capacity, okay, is everyone maxed out? Can you not deliver any more stuff? Is all of your team, or are you absolutely maxed out on capacity? Therefore, to grow, you need to find ways to become more efficient or increase the size of your team. Is the market your constraint? Okay, so have you tapped out and got to everybody in your local area, perhaps geographically or perhaps in terms of what you offer? Can you not sell anymore no matter how much money you throw at the marketing? Have you got those diminishing returns? So to solve that, can we sell to more people or offer additional products and services to increase the size of our potential market from what it is now? Or is it cash? Okay, are we cash constrained? Do we need to become more efficient with our suppliers, more efficient with our customers in turning that cash around a little bit quicker, perhaps taking some deposits, improving our cash flow to be more cash flow positive again, so we can grow our business? Have we got a skills constraint or a skills gap in our business? Again, this could be you needing to upskill yourself. You might need to bring skills into the business, or you might need to outsource some stuff to people who are experts and can truly help you and solve that skills gap in order to move forward. Have you got a systems and processes constraint? Okay, are you using the most effective software, the most effective tools in the most effective way? by mapping out your processes. Again, starting with the post-its on a whiteboard or just on the wall is a really good way to do this. I'm looking at my whiteboard over there, which is why I keep looking. Just stick those post-its on, get those systems and processes, first of all, written down, if nothing else, and then you can look to add automation afterwards. Or is the constraint you? Okay, are you holding your own business back by not focusing on the right things, by not putting your attention in the right place? Are you the biggest constraint in your own business, holding yourself and perhaps your team or even your family back by not doing the right things in your business? Okay, and if one of those things or more than one of those things is apparent for you, have a think and just write down which is your number one. Okay, if you've got multiple constraints, have a think which is the biggest blocker right now, because by focusing on just one of these things is what will help you. And then once that's resolved or improved, you can then start to look at the next one. And as the business grows, you will hit various constraints. That is totally normal. You'll hit one, look to solve it, resolve it. You'll hit another one, solve it, resolve it, and move forward. And your business will only grow as much as your biggest constraint allows, and you have to overcome them at different times. And as businesses grow to different sizes, those constraints will change and different things will happen. So it's important to tackle them in the right order and have a little think. So most businesses that I speak to and most business owners that I speak to, they are working really hard, but they are working on the wrong constraint. So I want to ask you again, what if you could remove your biggest constraint in quarter one? What if that could happen for you? Okay, what if you could move to the next stage? And what if I told you that was absolutely entirely possible? And we have done this successfully with quite a few businesses now through 2024 and 2025. And the way that I've done this is through the 90-day plan. And how I would describe this, it's a focused coaching sprint that gives you some clarity, traction, and a plan. And it's without the commitment of ongoing support, which I know a lot of people have worries of, especially if you've had a bad experience with a coach before, a negative experience, or something that hasn't quite worked out for you. So my 90-day plan offers the clarity and the traction, gives you that plan, but without any long-term commitments. Okay, and this is really for business owners who are super ambitious. They want to move to that next stage, but perhaps they're a little bit stuck, they're a little bit stretched, maybe overwhelmed, and again, not sure what to do, perhaps facing multiple constraints. Okay, you need to work on the business, but you never have the time. Okay, there's always too much weight to fit into your diary. There's almost too much to do. People pulling you in different directions. Okay, if you need to spend this time on the business, but don't have it, or can't find it, or can't see it, this is absolutely for you. Okay, but if you want better systems, structure, and focus, better processes, better systems, this is absolutely where we can help you. Okay, and give you that clear, personalized plan, not just more ideas. So I really pride myself on the advice and help that I give people. It's not just airy fairy, wishy-washy kind of stuff. Actually, it's really clear and it's personalized to you, not just a bunch of ideas. Oh, go and try that, and it's straight talking support and honest accountability. So when I work with my clients, I hold all of them accountable, and it's a case of making sure that they do the things that they say they're going to say, that we've agreed between us as being the most effective thing for them right now. So if you are someone who is ready to take action, get that clarity, have some momentum, and get some results, this is absolutely for you. Okay, but on the other side, on the flip side, it's really important to mention who this isn't for. Okay, so if you're the type of person looking to wave that magic wand and have everything fixed overnight, okay, this type of thing probably isn't for you. Okay, if you're not willing to do some of this work yourself in between, then absolutely, this is probably not for you. Okay, and those unwilling to look at their numbers as well. So I'm very fortunate. I think that in school, maths was my thing. I've always been quite good at maths, and I do look at the numbers very, very intently. But I acknowledge that for most people, that is a challenge. It's not something you want to do or particularly like to do. And these things can be difficult, but it is really important to know and look at the right numbers. So we can't hide away from these things. We absolutely have to look at these numbers. Okay, and if you're happy coasting without actually any desire to grow, by the way, that is totally fine. If you found and hit your constraint, but actually you've got a lovely life, a lovely business, and you're super happy with that, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, full power to you. That's actually amazing. It's an amazing thing to have and acknowledge. That means this isn't for you as well, and that's absolutely fine. So what we do in our 90-day plan, it starts with a deep dive kickoff. Okay, so this is If people are local to me, we'll do this together in person. If you're a bit further away, we'll do this over Zoom, and it works really, really well in both situations. But we have a really thorough, in-depth, deep dive kickoff situation. Okay, we'll clarify your numbers. Who is your target customers? What are your priority goals? And then build out that step-by-step weekly roadmap with a scorecard to track your progress. So you'll know exactly after this session, you know exactly what to do each week to move you forward, and then we'll give you a scorecard which we'll both have visibility on to track your progress against that. Okay, and then we'll follow that up with 3 accountability check-ins. So when we meet for that initial deep dive session, we'll then have a focused call together, an accountability call at days 30, 60 and 90. So we'll have an additional 3 meetings to help you stay on track. We can see where you're up to, what you've got done, what you're struggling with, what do you need extra support with, what's worked, what hasn't worked. And at those points, we can then tweak your path, tweak your journey to make sure you're moving forward in the right direction, and that the things we talked about in that initial session are actually working for you. And this is where we can tweak those things, and you can get that additional advice and support to do that. Okay, and the third thing here is practical tools and focus. So the last couple of years, I've built now and have access to so many tools, templates, guides, resources, all these different things I've got access to, and I can introduce you and show you to and bring into your business all the right things that you need to execute, not just plan this, okay, actually execute it and get it done. Okay, we'll give you that bespoke roadmap that I talked about, the scorecard with the right KPIs to you. This is all the specific and bespoke to the people that I work with on this one-to-one, so that you can actually go out day to day and do this. Okay, and it is a focused sprint. Okay, no tie-ins, no long-term contracts, but it's proper structured support, and it's going to help you reset, refocus, head into 2026 with clarity, and absolutely smash Q1, which I want for every single one of you. 2025. Worked with Berdine from a HR consultancy over in West Sussex. Some of the things she said there, okay, she said she'd highly recommend. She got clarity, she got close to those goals sooner from that first initial session. Bill as well, got a lot of time for Bill. He's got a brilliant business, multiple franchisee owner, North Hampshire and Bucks. Yeah, absolutely. The person you need, he said. Thank you, Bill, for those comments. And Sean as well said he's worked with a lot of different business coaches across various things in his very long established businesses, and he said by far the best experience he'd had was with me in these sessions that we've had together. So some little testimonials there, and of course all of that's on my Google business profile should you wish to check that out. And the investment for all of this, for everything that I've talked about there, is £750, including the VAT. So that includes that full half-day session, lunch together if we end up doing this in person as well. It's that full half-day strategy session as well. The 3 follow-up calls that come with it. So it's after our half-day, we'll have the catch-up call on day 30, day 60 and day 90. So you're not left on your own. You've got someone helping you, supporting you all of the way through this, and get that step-by-step blueprint, that guide to help you through all of Q1. Okay, and it's not on the slide here as well, but a lot of businesses do what I would describe as launch it and leave it. We'll set you off on your own, and there you go. Thank you very much. You'll also have full access to me via WhatsApp as well. So in between those sessions, if you're really struggling, if you're really stuck, I'm accessible on WhatsApp the whole way through, and I can support you. And if you get a bit stuck, we can just pop in an emergency call if you truly need it. But this will absolutely get you set up so you can overcome your biggest constraint in 2026 and absolutely get 2026 off to a flyer. So if that sounds helpful or useful to you, it's really, really straightforward. Okay, there's 2 QR codes here. If you're watching this on your computer or your laptop and you point your phone at the screen, I say just cover the wrong QR code with your hand and scan with the other one. And I'll also put the link in the comments here on LinkedIn. If you've got any questions or want to discuss any of this a little bit further, the link on the right-hand side will open WhatsApp, and you can pop me a message that will come directly through to me, and I will answer that personally. Or if you're ready to get started and this sounds really interesting and exciting for you, there's a Stripe link there to pay that £750 straight away. And as soon as I see that come through, we will book in that half-day session. If I see that come through today, we'll get that session booked in immediately. So while both of our calendars have the most availability, and then you will absolutely be off. We'll get that questionnaire sent out so you can start filling out those questions, getting those answers back to me, and I'll start planning those sessions now before Christmas so that in January we can absolutely get you moving. So I'm going to copy and paste these links into LinkedIn just so you guys can have them there as well to click on if that's a little bit easier for you. The 2 links are now there on LinkedIn. But yeah, I would absolutely love to help you make the most of 2026, overcome your biggest constraints, and absolutely have the best year ever, despite what the government and the budget's thrown at us in the last few months. Absolutely, this is the biggest, easiest and quickest way to help you move forward and move to that next level if that's what you want for yourself and for your business in 2026. But thank you for being here today. If you've watched this live and got to the end, I see there is a few of you on LinkedIn and on Instagram as well. So if you've got this far, thank you very much for watching. Absolutely would love to help you in 2026. If you've got any questions, comments or queries, or just want to contact me one-to-one, you can drop me a DM on LinkedIn or scan the QR code there, and that will come straight through to me on WhatsApp, where I will answer you personally. Thanks for watching. If you got this far, good to see everyone here today. Have a brilliant Christmas, a happy new year, and of course reach out if you need anything. Hope you all enjoy some proper time off, and I'll see you all later on. Thank you very much. Cheers everyone.